I'm really going to talk a little bit more about my career journey. It's almost 40 years. Then touch upon the critical skills for success and come back to the subject which interests me most now and on which I do a lot of work. Incidentally, I'm also a certified leadership coach. So, but I haven't got down to doing much of coaching because of my unfortunate load of work at the moment. So next slide, please. Yeah, so, just to tell you that I have an interesting career. I started off with my dream job at that time when I passed out of IIT of joining DCM as a senior management trainee. I don't know how many of you people in this group are aware about the DCM SMT scheme, which
I started my career with DCM.
Wonderful. So the DCM SMT scheme was actually preceded the IIMs and preceded Tata Administrative Service, practically all these, and it was a very prestigious scheme. So I actually worked in one of the companies called SRF Limited. And just to summarize, I'm not going to spend too much time. I think it was just about spending the first 8-9 years trying to acquire knowledge on different domains. And I kept nudging my bosses to move me, 3 to 4 years. So I worked in Bombay, I worked in Delhi, and I worked in Chennai in the plant. And in these 3 stints, I acquired a lot of knowledge. But one of the takeaways for me at that point in time was a lot of people were more bothered about, what kind of designation, what kind of salaries you're going to get at the end of the day. But somehow that was not uppermost in my mind at that time. Though I had a family, I had 2 children to raise. And it was always about looking at new challenges and learning. And this stood me in good stead. I joined a very nice company called Indian Organic Chemicals. Many of you who know about Computer Point or Mother Care, these companies, they've started the first potato chips plant in the 80s. And they did a lot of stuff. Sonata belongs to them. And of course, they were a chemical company and one of India's first polyester companies. So I joined them on the polyester thing. And what I learned in this stint was it was a company which had an entrepreneurial spirit and it really built a lot of innovations. So one of the first companies to recycle polyester, we used to bring barge loads of polyester bottles from the US East Coast and West Coast, did our own technology because some of the leading companies in the world would not part with technology on how to convert used PET bottles or X-ray films into virgin polyester or recycled polyester. And first company to make PET bottle grade chips in this part of the world, in fact, in all of Asia, collaborated with Pepsi to supply them with preforms. So a lot of innovation. And that was a great learning. And I leapfrogged because of the learnings that I had in SRF. I leapfrogged into a very senior position at IOC. After that, it was a even bigger challenge. In the mid-90s, another entrepreneur came on the scene, the Lohias of Indorama, who are today the world's largest producers of polyester. It's not Reliance, it's Indorama. And they wanted to set up a huge complex in India in Butibori in Nagpur. And they wanted to challenge the might of Reliance at that time. And one of the challenges for us was there was a market of 20,000 tons odd for polyester fiber created over 50, 60 years. And there was a capacity of another 20,000 being put, 10,000 by me and 10,000 by Reliance. And the market had to double from 20 to 40. It would have seemed impossible. So I think one of the learnings for me there was that nothing is impossible and impossible things can happen. And we were able to double the market in less than 14 to 16 months. And both Reliance took a little time to come into the market with the expansion, but Indorama was able to move into the market. And we had a different business model. We were not working with agents. We were working directly with companies. So I think it was a big challenge and it was great to see us succeed there. Then came the time that Mr. Birla had hunted me out because the viscose business had suffered at the cost of polyester. So it was like, he was going around looking for somebody who could resurrect the viscose business. The viscose, incidentally, was the cash cow of the group. The Grasim Industries was always the cash cow, and it had fueled all the expansion into Southeast Asia. And his words to me were that, Thomas, I've got a fire and you've got to put it out. So I think that was an enduring relationship in the 5 years that I managed as a CMO of that business. I was able to turn around the entire pulp and fiber business. We were at about 50% utilization with some of the new capacities lying unused, and we were able to scale up. And I'm really proud to say that everyone who carried on thereafter carried the torch, and viscose actually became the fastest growing fiber in the world. And we became the #1 fiber producer of viscose. And a lot of learnings there to say that, what even seems impossible, because viscose was twice the cost of polyester. And how to reverse substitute polyester back to viscose was a challenge, was an unparalleled challenge for the team, and we were able to do that. And coming to the next stint, and that was a stint which will go down with me as my best stint ever, is I was sent into an absolute, hellhole of a unit to manage it. I had never managed a manufacturing complex. I had about 7,000, 8,000 employees there. The unit had a lot of environmental issues. It had a lot of labor issues. In fact, the union was the most militant union in the entire Aditiya Birla Group. And to turn around this unit and to make it one of the best units in ABG, in fact, it is probably even today the best unit in the Gallup manufacturing worldwide in terms of engagement, and also, becoming one of the most coveted units in the group. Then moved on to some international exposure along with managing what I was managing. Did some acquisitions in China, in Canada, built a new grassroots operations in Laos. And this was really my window to the world at that point in time. Came to my toughest stint where Manoj and I met, and therefore I've known Manoj, I think, for the last 12 years, thanks to retail. Key learning in retail, running a low margin business which was hemorrhaging cash. And I'm very sure that Mukesh, that Manoj will be familiar with that term, having worked with Future. But the learning for me was that retail is all about detail. You can't aggregate, all stores and say that this is my operation. And I think a period of great learning. And I think I went completely grey during this stint. It was a stint which I was doing 16-hour days, 365 days a year. So in that 5 years, I acquired so much knowledge about retail. I was the chairman of the Retail Council of India for CII for almost 4 years, chairman of the Marketing Council for CII for 3 terms. So all the networking that I could do and learn was at this stint. Then finally, chairman brought me back into my core business, which was textiles, and I've been managing that business. It's a business spread over 7 countries, about 12 operating units, a little more than a $1.2, $1.3 billion business, but very importantly, managing a workforce of about 15, 16,000 people from many, many nationalities. So that's been a great learning experience. We've done a number of acquisitions over the last 3-4 years. So we still have appetite for growth there. And overall learning over the career has been that, you can never stop learning. And I would say that, I'm still learning. And it's very interesting. One of my senior colleagues the other day, a year ago said that I think I know everything about the textile industry. So my answer to him was, I'm so glad you do, because I'm still learning after 40 years. And so I think, it's a very different perspective. Yeah. And all I can say is that, it is something very, very important to keep the learning culture alive and to know that you can learn from anyone. And I'm very strong on, engaging hands-on. I visit my plants. I spend 20 days a month out of the country because of my 7 operating countries that I operate in. And I think there's nothing like staying in touch and keeping in touch with your people, right up to the grassroots level. And I think that's really been the learning. So, my takeaways from my career and something on which I've been thinking a lot is that what are the things that make for good leaders, good human beings, etc. And I think I've been talking about this for the last many years now. I'm very happy to see that the pandemic has actually opened the eyes of a lot of people on what the world really needs more of. So I believe strongly that mindfulness, listening intently, and suspending judgment are amongst the key leadership skills. Not just leadership in business. I mean, I think that's a very small part of our life. It's leadership in your homes, leadership in your families, leadership in your communities. And the quality of being humane and kind, all these are required in large, very, very large numbers today. So this is something which is very close to my heart. I've shared some videos with Mukesh on, there are a lot of videos on YouTube. One of them is called The Purpose of Life. And I think, that's very close to my heart. And I just end by saying that, that is really what is most important going forward for each one of us. Thank you.